Kids class do this. So this is sugar packets, and here's some classic drinks, okay? So I weighed these out today. This one right here, this is our like highest sugar content, okay? So classic 32-ounce Gatorade. I don't know about you, but I'm not pouring out 12 fluid. I'm gonna chug that whole thing.
Right.
And then a Frappuccino and only a Grande, okay? So 16 fluid ounces, which we know this is sugary, right? We know Frappuccino is probably the worst thing you can get at a Starbucks, but this has 54 grams of sugar. This is 55.
Oh, wow.
Ah, yeah, right? You're like, holy crap. And just to think like the fact that that much sugar can be dissolved in that much
Well, and then
liquid.
they make that, you think that that's good for you.
You think it's healthy?
Yeah.
Yeah. And not to say like carbs aren't bad. Like people are like, oh, I'm on a no carb diet. It's like, no, carbs fuel your body. Like they are the fuel your body needs to like have energy.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem with sugar is that our body like instantly processes it. And so it spikes our sugar level, right? And we crash off of it. And in that way, it also releases dopamine. And so there's a lab test in rats that shows that it's as addictive to those rats. It holds the same addictive properties as cocaine.
Sugar does.
Sugar. Yeah.
Wow.
And if you think about it, like if you really kind of look into, take some time to think about how you're feeling about your food, because that's a big part of eating is like feeling, right?
Right.
Like I'm an emotional eater.
Right.
Is you'll realize like you crave sugar. And so I always say like, hey, I'm on the sugar train right now. Like I need to cut it. And when I talk to people about nutrition, I'm like, don't cut anything. Like don't deny yourself, because hey,
I beat you 2 days in a row.
thank you. Yeah, for pointing that. You did. Beat me 2 days. Cool. Great. So, I'm very fueled by being competitive. So he just likes rubbing my face. So, but I don't like to think of like if you deny yourself things, you feel like you're punishing yourself. But sugar, I can logically be like, that's not good for me. It's one thing. I'm at a birthday party. I have a piece of cake. It's a social event, whatever. But it's another thing when it's like every day and you're standing, this is how I know I'm on the sugar train. I'm standing at the checkout at the grocery store thinking like, I could have one Reese's Big Cup. And then I'm like, oh shoot, I'm on the sugar train. Like I can't stop thinking about it. So that's Gatorade and a Frappuccino. Then another one here we have cranberry juice. It's not even the best juice. It's cranberry juice and a Coca-Cola. So cranberry juice this is only an 8 ounce. So for 8 ounces is 25 grams of sugar. In 12 ounces of Coca-Cola is 39 grams of sugar. Again, like just the fact that much can be in that little can.
Yeah.
But when you start to compare them equally, like if we took 12 ounces of juice instead of 8 ounces of juice, now we have 39 grams of sugar to 42 grams of sugar. There's more sugar in that Ocean Spray cranberry juice.
And it's crazy that you could drink a Coke versus a Gatorade. And I mean, I know it's more, but that's more ounces too, to where you're kind of like, if you're going to justify it in your head, like, if I'm going to crave something, I'm going to have Coca-Cola.
I know. Yeah, you start to do that where you're like, well, shoot, if I'm going to have sugar, I'm going to have sugar.
Right.
I'm not going to have Gatorade. I start to think about that way too. And that's like this one right here. Okay, Yoplait yogurt, not my favorite yogurt. We definitely probably know that that's one of the more unhealthy yogurts. There's yogurts on a very wide spectrum. Yeah, it's definitely one of those things like you got to turn it over and look at the label and know what's in it. But in this Yoplait yogurt, there are 20 grams of sugar. Boom. In this Hershey's bar, not a little guy, regular Hershey's bar, 15 grams of sugar.
That's wild.
So it's like here I am eating these Yoplaits thinking that they're healthy because it's yogurt, and I could just have a Hershey's bar.
Right.
And it has less sugar in it.
That's crazy.
So that's something too, like there's a lot of hidden sugars in yogurts, certain granolas, definitely cereal, some things you wouldn't think, like a Cliff Bar, 17 grams of sugar. Again, like that's marketed to us like it's healthy.
Right.
And actually on the front it says sustained energy, carbs give me energy. Sugar's a fast-acting carb. So they're not lying to me, but it's like, what situation am I in right now? Because if I'm just like putzing around my house, I probably don't need 17 grams of sugar to fuel that,
Right.
you know? It's a little bit different than if I'm hiking and I'm like looking for a small burst of energy, whatever. That's a different situation. Even then, there's better ways to come by it. All right, ketchup, last one. We're only talking 1 tablespoon of ketchup is a serving size, which, joke's on them, that bottle's squeezable. So this is how much sugar is in 1 tablespoon of ketchup.
That is a tablespoon.
That's what I said. I was like, that's literally a tablespoon. So ketchup is 25% sugar.
Huh.
Yeah. So just something to think about. Now, when we think about that, like, you're going to have sugar. There's naturally occurring sugars. It's like, it's going to happen. What we're looking at is added sugars and limiting that. So now on nutrition labels, they have to list total sugars, added sugars. So when you're looking at those labels, you're looking for like the least to 0 added sugars, okay? Women, you're looking for 25 grams a day. So let's think about that. I get 25 grams a day. That's less than half of this Gatorade.
Right.
That's how much sugar I'm supposed to have. Men, a little bit more generous because they usually have more body mass than us. There's this 36 grams of sugar. That's about what's in a Coke, is how much they should be having. So when you think about, like, I just think about kids in school and the kind of stuff they have access to at lunch and in vending machines, and you know what's easy for parents to grab and put in a lunchbox,
Right.
even if they're packing. And I'm just like, man, they might have a Coke, a Yoplait, a Cliff Bar.
Right.
That could be in one lunchbox.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's their weekly allowance of sugar.
I mean, I definitely always give. I mean, we have like the big old packs of the small Gatorades.
Yeah.
And it's something like I give her every day at lunch.
Yeah.
For lunch, because
Now,
it's one of those you just don't think about.
Kids
it.
are resilient, right? But there is something to be said for like, okay, let's start reining this in so we don't get them that like sweet tooth, that sugar spike, so we're not turning them into, you know, type 2 diabetics in their
Right.
20s, things like that. So this is what we're looking at when we have high sugar intake. And this is these are a handful of 45 negative health outcomes per like all these studies that they did this analysis of. Diabetes, gout, obesity, high blood pressure, heart attacks, stroke, cancer, asthma, tooth decay, depression, early death. That's just some of 45 negative effects that like it's proven sugar has. So I always just say this because I'm like, when we're talking about nutrition, again, like, don't deny yourself things. Like, don't deny yourself happiness because it's just not going to be sustainable. But if we can start to kick the sugar, it's going to be huge. So when I think about it, I'm like, there are 2 things that I'm like, I will cut this from my diet. And that's sugar and alcohol. It has no positive effects. In fact, it's really bad for my body. So it's just easy for me to justify in my head. Now again, like, if it's my anniversary and I want to have a glass of wine, if it's a birthday party and I have a piece of cake, but it's when you're on that train of like, oh, I'm having a glass of wine every night before bed, or I'm like craving that Reese's in the aisle at the grocery store, and that's when you just want to think, oh, maybe it's time to rein this in. So the other thing to think about, speaking of the grocery store, is clean eating. Everyone's like, I gotta eat clean, like processed food, highly processed food, and these are like kind of buzzy words. And so we just want to like define like what is clean eating. And when you think about the 100 words of CrossFit that we talked about the other day, they're like eat meat, nuts, seeds, fruits, and vegetables, little starch, no sugar, right? So when you think about those things, you're looking at the perimeter of the grocery store, right? Fruits and vegetables, I'm imagining our Urbana Kroger. Yeah. Fruits and vegetables over here, right? Yeah. You go through the deli area, that's not so hot. You go back to the back, that's where your meats are. Some of those being more processed than others. And you go around the other side, you've got dairy. Oh, our nuts and seeds are kind of over here. Sometimes they're in a little snack aisle, right? And then we got our dairy, eggs, things like that. Our vegan stuff over on the outside. So the majority of our shopping happening around the perimeter of the store is awesome. I literally now, every time I have to go down an aisle, think like, I better check the label on this.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm suspicious of anything that's down an aisle.
Yeah.
Not that there's not good things down there, but I'm just suspicious of it all of a sudden. Go down the bread aisle and I'm like, okay, where's my 0 sugar? You know, I don't want some fake stuff that's gonna sit on my counter for a month and never rot. Like,
Right.
you know, where's that stuff? So just being aware and also thinking like, okay, what are some better options here? If it's not Yoplait, there's a yogurt I really like called Too Good.
Good.
Now, it for some people is too good and not in flavor. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like it's a Greek yogurt and it's pretty plain. But I mix protein in with it. And so like if my protein powder tastes good, then all of a sudden my yogurt tastes good. And now it's got 24 grams of protein, you know, which is huge. So macros are a conversation for another day though. Cool beans?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.